other people who. Hello, everyone. So we were off of Zoom and now we're back on Zoom. So going through some tips and tricks to start the reset. So loading phase day 1 and day 2, you're going to focus on eating 5,000 calories a day. So the healthier you eat, the healthier you're going to feel. So if you focus on your healthy fats, your nuts, your seeds, organic, not processed foods, you're going to feel a lot better. So, and you can use Practice Better to log your food as well. So you can do a free form entry in Practice Better. So if you log in and click the plus sign in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll be able to click add a food journal, and then you'll be able to click add a free form entry. So you can type in, 4 ounces steak, half a cup of broccoli, half a cup of mashed potatoes. So as long as you put some sort of a portion with that food and click use data, it'll count all your calories for you. So the only time that we care about the calories is during the loading phase, day 1 and day 2, because you want to get as many calories as you can to build up your stores for that release phase. So log that food, try and get as many calories as you can. There is a sample meal guide in your book that gets you to about 3,600 calories. So cashews, bacon, avocados, adding those throughout the day will help get to that 5,000 calorie mark. And then make sure you take your weight before your loading days. So it is neat to see how much your weight changes just in 2 days of eating 5,000 calories. So it's not uncommon. Some people gain 3 to 5 pounds and they're like, holy crap, like bad food really does make a difference and really does make an impact on what you're eating. So log your weight on day 1 and then log your weight again on day 3, because you're going to see the difference in that weight going through that release phase. So make sure to take your measurements. I do encourage you to take a picture. A lot of times people are against taking pictures of themselves. It is not to show anyone else. It is for you. If you want to share it with other people, that's great, but you certainly don't have to. But I have had people that regret not taking a picture. They get to the end of it, maybe they've lost 30 pounds and they're like, man, I wish I would have taken a picture to see how far I've come. So you can always take it and delete it later. So just take it because you can't go back and I don't want you to go back. So get all your food cravings out during those loading phases. So day 1 and day 2, if you want to go eat pizza, if you want to go eat wings, if you want to go have ice cream, whatever you need to do to get those cravings out so you're not feeling like you're missing out once you go into the release phase. So for me, I went to the VC, I had pizza, I had wings, we went out for ice cream. Like I got all my cravings out because I knew those were things that I might want. And I didn't want to be desiring those things going through the release phase. So get those cravings out. Remember to put a little bit of salt in your water. So you don't want iodized salt. You want the Redmond's real salt, Celtic sea salt, more of those healthier salts, because when you start burning your fat, you burn through a lot of your salt stores. So put in about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt in about 500 milliliters of water helps replenish those salt stores. You might find that you crave more salt throughout the reset. That is okay. You can salt your food. Some people shake a little salt right in their mouth. Some people put extra in their water. So it is normal to want more salt while you're on the reset. And the loading phase, you're starting your reset spray. So you're doing 7 sprays 3 times a day. So I encourage you to, this is not a reset bottle, but tap your bottle on your hand like this, like 10 times to really shake it up, and then spray it under your tongue. So let it sit there for 10 minutes, let it really absorb. Don't drink anything right after, otherwise you're just kind of washing that away. So it really absorbs well in the mouth. So try and avoid water or any food 10 minutes before you take the spray and 10 minutes after you take the spray. So that is your loading phase. The other tip is to remember your reset spray. You can do reminders on your phone. So you can have an alarm go off at 7 a.m., 2 p.m., and 10 p.m. to remind you to take your spray, especially that 2 o'clock dose. That's one that sometimes gets missed. So until you get in the habit of doing that, it's okay to do a reminder on your phone to remind you to do that. If you go to bed before 10 p.m., if you go to bed at 9, don't stay up till 10 to take your spray. Take the spray at 9 and go to bed. Serve your body and take that rest and go to bed. So the release phase is days 3 through 42. So this is where you're going to go to 5 sprays 3 times a day. So at the same times of 7 a.m., 2 p.m., and 10 p.m., you're just going down to 5 sprays. And the most important part is you're cutting out all your fats and oils. So no nuts, no seeds, no butter, no oils, no really fatty cuts of meat. So you're cutting out all of that fat, because what that does is it activates your body's fat stores. So you're turning on your body to burn its own fat. We all have enough fat to burn off. You can think back to, back in the old times when they didn't eat all day every day. Like, we have enough fat in our bodies to live for a long time. So we're turning on those fat stores by eliminating eating fat. So you're focusing on the foods on your sheet only. So measure out your foods. There is a food scale for a reason. Use it, because oftentimes people don't put enough protein on their plate. Oftentimes people don't eat enough veggies. So put the foods on your food scale, measure them out, and actually weigh them to ensure you're getting those nutrients. The other little interesting tip is, if you find in the beginning, it's sometimes interesting to fill up your plate with food and then weigh it, because you'll see, like, okay, how much protein have I been taking? How much veggies have I been taking? And it's usually not that full 4 ounces. So you're going to be eating more food on the reset than maybe you would have been before. So you also get to pick your fasting window. So this is going to be your 8-hour window where you are eating. So focusing on the 2 meals a day in that 8-hour time period. You want your meals at least 6 hours apart. So if you're fasting, I'd say 10 to 6, that's a pretty common one, or 11 to 7 is another common one. Most people usually skip breakfast. That is a little bit easier for a lot of people than skipping dinner. You most certainly can skip dinner if that resonates better with you, but a majority of people skip breakfast. So maybe you're eating breakfast at 10. Well, then you want to at least wait 6 hours and not eat your next meal until 4, and be done eating by 6. So you're focusing on those 2 nutrient-dense meals a day, with the 4-ounce protein, 4-ounce veggies, 4-ounce fruits, and then you can have unlimited free veggies. So as much as you want on that list, you can add in. You can also add pickles to that list. So as long as they're not bread and butter pickles or don't have any sugar, you can eat as many pickles as you want. Those are usually a vice for people. It gives them the crunch, it gives them the salt, it just gives them that more of a snacky kind of feeling. I personally eat a lot of pickles throughout the reset just because I needed that snack, so to speak, of just eating something, right? And we discover that we probably have a more emotional ties to food than we might realize. So while you're in the release phase, still continue on the salt. If you find that you crave more salt, then add in more salt. That is okay. And then don't snack between meals. So if you find that you're hungry between meals, I want you to really think, okay, is this a physical hunger or is this an emotional hunger? Because when you stop to take a minute to assess that, you might find that you're not actually physically hungry. If it's an emotional hunger, maybe you're doing an activity that you would normally be eating with. Maybe you're watching a movie and thinking you should have popcorn. Maybe you're, I don't know, my kids love to have snacks in the car. Maybe you would like to have a snack in the car. Really just identify what you're doing. Maybe your kids are ticking you off and you want to just have a piece of chocolate, right? So are you going to food for comfort, or are you going to food for actual hunger? So if you've assessed, the physical and emotional piece, and it is more of the physical hunger, I want you to start by drinking a glass of water, because the first sign of dehydration is actually hunger. So drink a glass of water and wait a little bit. So wait maybe 15 minutes and then see, am I actually hungry? If you are actually hungry at that point, then focus on more of the free veggies. So that's more your, cucumbers, celery, pickles, those free veggies, and eat some of those and see how you feel. So this is about stopping and assessing and becoming in tune with your body to see, am I actually hungry or am I bored? Am I actually hungry, or do I need to, release some emotions in a different way versus going to food? Maybe we can replace that with going for a walk, or taking a shower, or taking a bath, doing some breath work, getting outside, reading a book. Like, what can we replace that with so you're not reaching for food? There is what's called the CRUSH technique. If you search that in the Facebook group, the PDF will come up, CRUSH, CRUSH, and that's a technique to help you release some of those emotional cravings to food that you can do in that moment. So sometimes we do need to physically do something to release those emotions. Maybe it's journaling. Sometimes it's writing down everything that ticks you off and burning the piece of paper and get rid of it, right? That is a way to release it and let it go. And then fill yourself back up with gratitude, with joy, with just be grateful. So the more positivity we put into ourselves, the more positivity we put out. So, and then the energy we put out is the energy that comes back. So fill yourself up with positive things to help release the emotions, the toxins, the weight. It is not just about weight. There's so much more that gets released throughout this program. And you are truly creating a new identity for yourself. So you might identify with different things by the end of this program than you did at the beginning. And that's the goal, right? We want to up level ourselves and up level our health. So in the release phase, we also want to focus on joyful movement. So this means if you've been doing HIIT workouts, if you've been doing strength training, if you've been doing running, I want you to stop because that stresses the body too much. So we want to focus on more walking, more stretching, more yoga, more things to calm the nervous system down, not stress it out. So I'm not saying you have to stop those things forever, but during that release phase, we want to calm everything down. So slow down, you will release weight even if you're not working out like crazy. So slow down, we can add those things back in later. So 20 minutes a day of joyful movement, maybe that's dancing with your kids. Maybe that's jumping on the trampoline with your kids, walking your dog. Do something that brings you joy. So 20 minutes, preferably outside if you can. The maintenance phase is days 43 through 72. So this is when you usually stop the reset spray. Now I have discovered in the last couple of months of experimenting with not only myself, but other practitioners, that we've found that it is beneficial for some people to continue on the spray. So what I have found with my clients is if you have a very calm life, you have a very calm job, maybe kids are out of the house, you're in a relaxed state more often, you might do fine stopping the spray and feel fabulous. There are other times I find people with very high stress jobs or very just on edge situations all the time, continuing the spray is actually very beneficial to keep that nervous system calm. So 3 sprays about 3 times a day has been the sweet spot for a lot of people. You know, you can kind of play with that and see what works well for you. If it's just 2 times a day, if it's 3 times a day, you're going to know what you need at that point because you're going to be more in tune with your body. So if at this point, upon starting the maintenance phase, you have not reached your weight loss goal, you do have to finish the maintenance phase because we do need to add in those fats. Our brains need fat. Our bodies need fat. We need fat to function. So since you've had 6 weeks of no fat, we got to add that fat back in for 4 weeks. And then we can do another round if needed to reach that weight loss goal. So don't be discouraged if you haven't reached that point. I've had people that have had a weight loss goal of 40 pounds and they lose 25 in the first 6 weeks. That's great. So we can wait that 4 weeks of maintenance and do another round when you're ready, okay? So give yourself grief, forgive yourself, give yourself grace, not grief, oh my goodness. Give yourself grace, don't grieve over it because you are making changes and you are doing what's right for your body. So everyone releases weight at a different pace. Don't compare yourself to other people. We are all on our own journey. So in the maintenance phase, I encourage you add in 1 new food per day. So this really allows you to find your trigger foods. So maybe you add in sourdough bread and maybe you wake up the next morning and you have knee pain. Okay, well, why is the knee pain there? Did you physically hurt the knee or was it from a food that you were eating? So you could stop eating the sourdough bread, see if the knee pain goes away. So this helps you see what is serving your body and what is not, because once again, everyone is different. If you do want to do a food inflammation test, we can certainly do that and see what specific foods. The test that I run has 176 different foods that it looks at and also a gut panel. That is something we could explore if you desire. Or you can get intuitive with your body and just see what is serving me and what is not. So in the maintenance phase, you're adding in the healthy fats. You can add in a little bit more exercise, a little bit more strength training. You can add in a little bit of the starchy carbs and just do it slow, ease into it. You don't need to go on maintenance and then add everything in all at once, right? Just ease into that. I do still encourage intermittent fasting. On the maintenance phase, if you have like a 12 to 14 hour fasting window versus the 16 hours like you do in the release phase, that is usually a little bit more doable for people. But I do still encourage at least doing a 16-hour fast 2 to 3 times a week. So a 16-hour fast is what you're doing on the release phase. So you don't eat for 16 hours, and then you have the 8-hour window of eating. So between 16 to 18 hours is actually when your body goes into a state of what's called autophagy. So autophagy is where your body recycles old and damaged cells. We want to continue to have the body hit that stage of autophagy because that is what does all the recycling in your body. And if you never take that time to fast, your body doesn't hit that stage. So fasting is a very key point to continue on your healing journey. So that helps decrease that inflammation, that helps recycle the old cells, that helps just clean everything out of your body and give your gut a break. We don't need to be constantly eating all the time. It gives your gut a break to do some healing and repair in the gut as well. Some tips to be able to cook during the release phase when you're not using fats or oils would be, you can use a little bit of like vegetable stock, a little bit of water, that goes a long way. I have a pan that I have like a stainless steel strainer that goes into it that I steam my veggies in. Sometimes I'll cook in that stainless steel strainer so it's not sticking to the pan. I have the Our Place pans. They are now available at Target and online, and they are nonstick and not toxic. So they do have a silicone mat that can go over the sheet pan. You can cook chicken on that. You can roast veggies on that, and they don't stick. The other thing is an air fryer. So an air fryer is great for making steak, making fish, doing veggies. You can do a lot of things in an air fryer. And steak for me was like one of the big things. Like I love a good steak, and I used to make it in a cast iron pan. During the release phase, you're not going to be wanting to use a lot of cast iron because of the oil in it. So cooking in the air fryer keeps that like crispy outside and that nice juicy inside. So that is a nice, I still to this day cook in the air fryer. So don't think you're limited. You can still do a lot of things even without fats and oils during that release phase. The other thing is coffee. So a lot of people like to have creamer or sugar or butter or something in their coffee. So during the release phase, we don't want to do any dairy. So the other option would be stevia. So Now brand has flavored stevias. I personally like the maple one, the vanilla cinnamon one, and the peppermint cookie. So those are flavor that you can put in your coffee. It helps you get off of creamer and transitions you to, enjoying coffee with a little bit more of that coffee taste, especially during that release phase. So I hope these tips and tricks help, and let me know any questions that you have.